What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Last Words here in the pit. I'm one of your hosts, Jordan Olds from 2 Minutes to Late Night.
I'm Katy Irizarry from Season of Mist.
And I am Coyle from the band Bad Wolves and host of the X-Man podcast.
This week, we all made a list of top 5 winter albums. And I'm going to start with Chelsea Wolfe's Abyss. She's an exclusively September to March listen. Like, it's got to be cold out when you listen to Chelsea Wolfe. I think that this album is a masterpiece. I think that she is underrated in her legend status, and I feel like this album really proves it. The sonic work of Ben, her teammate on these albums, is unbelievable. The songwriting is catchy and it's powerful. She is everything that's great about grunge and 9 Inch Nails and Stevie Nicks all in one thing.
Jordan, I'm about to say, I'm not about to say lightly, and this may be one of the only times you'll hear me say this on the show, but everything you just said, I 150 million% agree with. Spot on. Like, I was thinking, once you said it, I'm like, wow, yeah, that is a perfect winter and fall album. Like, that was perfect. Mm-hmm. Everything you've just said. And interestingly enough, Chelsea Wolfe is on one of my winter picks. I don't know if we want to talk more about this or then segue into that, but Doc, do you have a comment on the Chelsea Wolfe before I start talking here?
Me, because I'm the type of person who likes to play devil's advocate, I just have to push against this idea of winter music just in the aggregate, because think about summer touring festival season. We go to that. Chelsea Wolfe was playing some cool festival in the summertime. You'd be pretty pumped up. Don't put Chelsea in a box.
I think in the summer, things are bright. You're out in the sun. You're on the beach. You want to be happy. You just want to live your life like a David Lee Roth song. But in come the autumn, when things start dying and decaying into the cold winter and the shorter nights, you just want to feel agony. You're depressed. Everything sucks. So there's a certain type of music that really scratches that itch. And Chelsea Wolfe, I feel, kind of captures that excitement of the autumn and then that misery of the winter. At least that's from my take as I think about it. And I think for me personally, I'm just generally confused in spring. Like, are you winter? Are you summer? What's going on here? So maybe that I can't really box any music into that. So instead of doing this like a top 5, I figured I didn't want to make this the black metal happy hour. For me, one of my main summer artists to go to is Lana Del Rey. And in the winter, I like to go to the antithesis of Lana Del Rey, which would be Neigher. And there's actually 2 particular songs on that record that Chelsea Wolfe does guest vocals on.
I come from it from a very different angle than I think you two do, which is kind of leaning into the bleakness of the season and finding music that aesthetically matches that feel and mood. Where me, I feel like I have to fight the seasonal depression with stuff that gets me up and keeps me cheery. But I remember working, and I'd be up at 8 o'clock in the morning. It'd be freezing. I'd be heating up the band's van to go there, and I would always put on Jamiroquai, right? Because it would get me in a good mood, right? But that's not my pick. But I needed that balance to cheeriness. So my actual pick, number 5, is the band Ghost, and it's not one album. It's really the entire catalog. So it's Ghost because I feel like they have a lot of that gothy orchestral feel that almost could be a Christmas rock opera or something like that. But there's just something always fun about the band, and it always puts me in a good mood. And it's something around this time. And they're also a band that sounds like an old band, even though they're not. And that in and of itself harkens the idea of nostalgia, which is something that I use as a place of comfort in a time like the winter. Well,
I have a kind of a complicated relationship with Ghost as well, where I kind of flip-flopped on them a lot during those first 3 records, where there were songs that really I loved, like Year Zero, for instance. Mostly I just kind of didn't really get it. And it wasn't until Coyle came out, and I felt that was the album that gave me that epiphany that made me kind of revisit them and really feel like...
It's not prequel?
Maybe it is. Probably is prequel, It might be prequel.
I'm not that bright, so I could be wrong.
I definitely could be wrong too. I feel like there should be an unspoken rule. I only know how to pronounce some things. Most I don't. We're just
maybe that's like the cool way to say it.
We're from the East Coast. We say everything wrong. It's
we
fine.
say
It's part of the
everything
show.
wrong. Yes, that's absolutely what happened.
Have you heard the album Blackwood? It's beautiful album.
What is that accent? Italian, French, Romanian? I don't know
It's pretty Italian-ish, but
they're a band that I think it's understandable how some people could have a complicated relationship with their music.
Well, I think every album they've done is pretty much, I don't say perfect, but the reason why I picked just the whole band catalog is they're one of those bands I could play Ghost Roulette and it's going to be a good song. And I could totally see how some people like the later stuff because they got a bit more musical, a bit more refined, a bit more hook oriented, but I think they started amazing and they just kind of continue to get even better. So I'm a super fan.
That's how I feel. I'm like, this is everything I love just rolled into one package. Everything. Sacrilegion, spooky costumes, pageantry, disco, dark, synth wave.
Well,
that's crazy.
Guys, I think we should give this topic CPR because y'all have beaten it to death. Jordan, number 4.
Right, you're right. Number 4. I'm picking Final Transition from Cave-In. I used to just love driving and listening to Jupiter for a long time. 2019 album, Final Transmission, has all of that and just so much emotion attached to it. It is a beautiful tribute to a fallen friend. This band has always been great. They just keep shifting and ebbing and growing with time. And they're exactly, at times they're seen as like ahead of their time, like with their major label debut. But I think they're always exactly right for whatever time they're creating stuff in. And I think that's why I'm putting their latest album on mine. Like, they are a good winter listen. It's cathartic, and it's powerful, and it's
Actually, I think this is an excellent choice, and I think you could almost pick any Cave-In record, and it does feel kind of wintry. And I don't know why, but I'm just thinking about it right now. They're one of my favorite bands as well, and I've listened to this album, but I feel like I didn't really give it a proper listen. So this is Along with Chelsea Wolfe. Thanks for giving me all this homework. Thank you.
You go to class.
A sarcasm.
So this is my straight up Norwegian black metal pick. Immortal, I'm kind of torn between either At the Heart of Winter or The Sons of Northern Darkness. Both of these records, I think just listening to them, particularly in winter, is an experience where you get the soundscape along with the scenery. So there's a lot of icy Arctic elements to, pretty much their entire discography. It's really hard to narrow it down. But I think those two in particular really capture that essence of winter and coldness and darkness, and they're great records. They are great records, and those to me, like I said, they just don't feel the same if I don't have the full vibe going on.
I love Immortal so much. Abat is just, I hate that Mount Rushmore is a term that I have to use, but Mount Rushmore of black metal people, it's just mostly just Abat faces the whole time.
Yeah.
So my fourth choice is Amon Amarth, Twilight of the Thunder God. I think it's their best record, catchiest, got the biggest anthems, and again, conjures the mood of winter and mountains and snow and Viking glory, but it's fun. It puts me in a good mood. It's not a downer. It's a real invigorating connection. And it's what I love about the band, and I think a big reason why they're as massive as they are.
I respect that. Yeah, Amon Amarth definitely. It's one of those bands. Same thing. I feel that's for me. They're a winter band, absolutely.
They're like a metal band you could listen to while sledding to. Like this
sled metal. Has anyone ever done vehicular homicide with a sled? Just like cut a guy's head off.
Have.
Honestly, yeah. Here's the thing. You're gonna Google that, and you're gonna be really sad about all the dead children you're gonna find.
Yeah.
Well, it is called a sleigh.
All right, I'm moving on to my number 3. I feel like there's a place for this type of music in winter. I'm picking "Sentenced to Life" by Black Breath. I have like seasonal chainsaw guitar bands for the most part, but something about Black Breath is so conducive to winter. Like they are fun. There's like a hardcore element. There is some black metal in there. This album and their work with Kurt really brought that sound back. Like, and now we hear that. You hear the chainsaw guitars really everywhere. And I feel like this band doesn't really get the credit that they deserve all the time. This band has everything that's fun about metal, but somehow, even though it's fun, it's perfect for winter.
Not that I'm really the biggest progressive music in general fan, but there's a few bands that I love, and this is one of them, and that would be Opeth. And for me, the Opeth winter album is The Ghost Reveries. I don't know what it is. I think maybe it's because there's some moments on this album that are very vaguely, I wouldn't even say black metal. I feel maybe they're just channeling this icy Sweden kind of thing. I love this record. I love this band. And to be honest, I just want to talk about that album. So here we are.
If not their best album, it's right there. I mean, I think there's probably 4 or 5 of their albums you could say is maybe their best moment. I came very close to putting Opeth on my list. And again, this goes in concert with what I said. There's something about Scandinavian music, Scandinavian bands and culture that connotes a feeling of this time of year. And I don't think any band does that better than Opeth.
Wait, you think they are the number 1 winter band?
No, listen, it's called hyperbole, all right? Get with it.
I would say they're the number 1 winter band that is not a winter specific band. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like a Immortal or Emperor or Amon Amarth or Dissection. They're not just straight up making their music about winter. It's kind of more like there's just something wintry about it. They're the number 1 at that. Does that make sense?
I think they could have replaced any band on my list.
They get more winter over there.
Exactly. They know. My third choice, very connected with the Opeth because I did the tour for this album, and it was also Opeth's first ever U.S. tour in 2001, and they were touring on Blackwater Park. And this record, and this is what I was saying, this time period, for me, it's a lot about listening to things that bring nostalgic times and going back in the time machine. And one of my favorite metal records of all time is Nevermore, Dead Heart in the Dead World.
Stop it! That is on my list, Doc.
That's so funny. Game, recognized game. I thought you guys were tag team, and now we're the tag team.
Yes.
Ah!
I'm in sync with you, Doc.
I mean, it's basically a perfect record.
Mm-hmm.
If you go on Spotify, I mean, the band's been broken up for several years. Rest in peace, Warrell Dane. The big songs on this album are still the top songs of the band, which speaks to 20 years later, they still make a big impact. The album has this very cold, clinical production. It's so catchy, and the riffs are so amazing, and you sing along with everything. It's fun, and it's amazing you have these particular albums that just stand the test of time like this. And I just listened to it, so that's why I made my list.
I'm sorry, Jordan, but we're skipping you real quick for number 2 because this is absolutely. I picked this record because Nevermore is one of my favorite bands, and I feel like I don't get to talk about them enough. And this is, though, a very wintry record to me, though, at the same time, because it's very stark. And this is what I'm talking about when you're in the winter time, you feel this kind of pain. Warrell Dane is a man who went through a lot of pain in his life. And Dreaming Neon Black, a different album of his, is actually about a girlfriend of his who ran off to be in a cult. And like, he never saw or heard from her again. He had nightmares of her drowning and calling for him. Like, he has a very tragic and dark history, and it comes out in his albums. And Dead Heart in a Dead World is, just like Doc just said, a masterpiece, a classic. It's brilliant, that record. It is absolutely brilliant. Something worth mentioning about Nevermore and Warrell Dane in particular is a tragic man with a tragic life whose own life came to a pretty tragic end. So
I think going to be surprising for most, it's Dark Throne, but it's Old Star. That is their last release. They're the definition for me of a band that literally just gets better every record. And that is not usually the case in black metal. This record is the best sounding, best version of what I think you could show someone what pure black metal sounds like. It sounds like this, but it also isn't completely unlistenable like some black metal is to a lot of people. Like,
I will allow that. As,
okay.
As black metal Betty, I will allow that. Dark Throne is a great band. I think they're consistently great. They're always putting out good records. I wouldn't say that's one that I've revisited often, but you want to know something? I think I need to, because it's not an album I hated. I think maybe it's just an album I didn't appreciate as much, and you have inspired me to revisit.
You know, all I picture is you, and it's cold, but you're wearing like a leather jacket, but there's no scarf, no hat. So your ears are cold, but and your face is cold, but it's like, this is my look. So you're just leaning into the suffering to further kind of congeal with the music.
In my 20s, probably. But now in my 30s, the company that makes my leather jacket also makes my scarf.
There you go. Okay. Listen, scarves are very black metal. As mainstream metal, Marlon, I did not hear this album. More homework. Bastard.
We've all got a little homework this week, I think.
Okay, so my number 2 record is a little left field for this list. So for some reason, Incubus Make Yourself, I just think about fall going into winter and being and contemplating my life and my feelings and honing into these lyrics and you know, I think it is one of those records that, hey, maybe this could be a spring record because of the way it sounds. But something about it, I just think about melancholy and it getting dark and having an album as a sort of comfort.
There's something about 90s jazz master rock and roll that makes you think about your life, but also, all right.
Play the PRS, bro. PRS, okay?
No, he's got on that album?
Yeah.
All right.
I'll send you some links, bro.
PRS.
I got a PRS.
You got a PRS?
Damn straight. It's amazing. Listen, I know Hipster Metal Henry will not play no PRS, all right? They're like, did Steely Dan play it? No, then I ain't playing it.
Santana and no one else.
I don't know. You know who was playing PRSs back in the day? Cave In. Oh! For a minute, and then they started playing Les Pauls.
All right. Well, either way, my number 1 winter album, Danzig 3, How the Gods Kill. Danzig is so associated with autumn and winter, as a lot of artists that we've talked about. But I think that actually even the first 4 Danzig records also have their season. I feel like Danzig 1 is a summer record, weirdly. I think Danzig 2 is for autumn, and Danzig 3 is for winter. It is the coldest production. Maybe it's because there was a lot of animosity on the song How the Gods Kill. Danzig only did 1 vocal take, and someone's amp is on, and you can hear like it humming in the background.
I gotta say, Doc, I'm back to vibing with Jordan, because funny enough, I thought Jordan was gonna take my number 1. He didn't, but he very easily could have, because I did also consider How the Gods Kill. But then I was like, I was basically torn between 2 bands that are autumns and winters. So my actual number 1 is Typo Negative's World's Coming Down. And again, I think, yes, I think it's the same kind of thing where this is a band that traditionally you associate automatically with the autumn. When you actually look at their discography as a whole, you kind of have a little something for everything, you know, like Life is Killing Me is their summer album, and October Rust and Bloody Kisses are their autumn albums. And to me, World Coming Down is the winter album. What I love about this album is just very stark, and there's just something very dark and cold about it. And I think it's among one of the more depressing records that he's done. And I just love this record, and this is definitely for me one of those. This is my Typo Negative. We're done. We're past November. This is what we're going to transition to for the next 3 months record.
Well, Typo Negative, so great. Great choices, everyone. My number 1, again, very left field, but this is, I would guess, my 1 album that I put in the Christmas boat without it being a Christmas record, and that's Beach Boys' Pet Sounds.
Hell yeah! Okay.
All right.
What we think of as Christmas music, a lot of it is actually in this musical context of almost Motown sounds, because a lot of the songs that became popular Christmas songs were really recorded between like the 40s and the 60s. So there's all these certain types of timbres and instruments. And so for some reason, the way that record sounds, it just has that feeling of warmth and thoughtfulness and remembering. And I don't know, it's the oddest thing because it feels happy and sad all at the same time. Like it feels very sad, but then also hopeful. And it's just the one record, if it's Christmas Day, that I would just want to put on and just kind of lean into it. And I don't know, I guess there's a theme through at least a few of the records here, is that this time of year to me is about reflection, thinking about the last year, how you've handled everything, how you've grown, what you've dealt with, but also thinking about years past and previous Christmases. And I think about all the shows, you know, there was always these great concerts that would happen in between Christmas and New Year's that you go to. There'd always be big shows the day after Thanksgiving, or the day before Thanksgiving was always a big day for shows, that Wednesday. And, you know, Christmas parties. And there's just something about that. And it's also kind of a dead time period for the metal world, because most records don't come out basically from the last 3 weeks of December to about the first week of January. So it's just this time to kind of recollect and ponder everything. And this falls right in with it.
Respect.
To be dead honest with you, I didn't know we could pick non-metal albums.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because I debated picking the soundtrack for the Eurovision Song Contest movie.
All right, well, that was our winter episode. Katy, where can the people find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Merciful Kate.
Doc!
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Coyle, or you can head over to my website, doccoyle.net.
You can follow me at 2 Minutes to Late Night on Instagram, at 2M2LN on Twitter. If you enjoyed this episode, please listen to our full conversation by going and subscribing to our podcast on all podcast platforms. It is a full hour-long conversation. You're going to want to hear it. It's where all the takes are, the hottest ones. Follow us on all social media at We Are The Pit. We are here every Thursday talking about metal, guest or not.